If you're thinking about getting a tiny home, then this video is perfect for you. In today's episode of Simply Living Tiny, I'm going to share with you how to start the tiny home journey and also some of the obstacles that I've had to face. My tiny home was delivered October the 14th of 2019, and since I have been in the tiny home these past 5 years, there have been tears of joy. There have been tears of frustration, and some may even describe it as tiny meltdowns. And so hopefully this information I'm going to share with you today will be very helpful. And with pre-planning, with the obstacles that are going to come, because they will come, pre-planning for those will help ease some of your stress. Hello, my name is Brenda and I live in a tiny with my little dog Buddy. And if you are new here, welcome. And if you've been watching the videos, welcome back. And I hope today that you will find some very informative information that would help you on your journey. A good place to start with your tiny house journey is a checklist. I love making lists and I love checking it off as I'm working my way through the list. It makes me feel like I'm being very productive. So let's make a list together on how to start your tiny home journey. A good place to start with your tiny house journey is to make a checklist. So, tiny house checklist. And what you're going to put on the checklist is, first, you need to find your builder. And then you need to figure out your financing. And then insurance. And where are you going to park it? What do you have to do to prep the land on where you're going to park it? And you need to downsize. And who are you going to get to help set up your tiny home? This is a rough draft of some of the things that you need to start with getting your tiny home. So we got our handy dandy list made, and so we're going to start checking things off the list. So the first thing on the list is finding a builder. So you find a builder that you can trust, that has a good reputation. Take the time to do the homework, read the reviews. If you can, contact people that had homes built by this builder. For me, I chose Tumbleweed Tiny Home, and they have a very good reputation. They have been around since 1999, so they know all the codes, the regulations to make your home safe, and I trusted them to build my tiny home and to build it well and to make it safe. So do the homework, find a very reputable builder, and then with me, I had to do financing. And so with Tumbleweed Tiny Home, then they work with 21st Century, so I was able to get a mortgage through them. And then also with the 21st Century, they also offered insurance. So that was two birds with one stone. So I didn't have to go out and find an insurance company because my lender, they offered insurance. And so I found my builder, my financing, and my insurance. And so now we're down to parking it. So with parking the tiny home, you have a lot of different options. If you're looking to buy land to put your tiny home on your own piece of land, then you have to follow like your county regulations for doing that, making sure that, you know, whatever codes that they have in your county, that you're able to put your tiny home on your own piece of property. Some people like me, they have a family member and they put their tiny home on the family member's property that already has a foundational home on it. Some people go to tiny home communities and they live there, and that's a really great idea because the communities, it's very safe. A lot of your neighbors know each other. They like to help each other out. It reminds me of the good old days, as they say. I remember growing up in a subdivision, and so if we, you know, in the kitchen cooking and we're needing like a cup of sugar or a couple of eggs, we would just run to the neighbor and say, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar? And then they would do the same, you know, with us too. So communities are really good. You're surrounded by people that they're like-minded like you. They chose an alternative lifestyle, a different way of living in a tiny home, and they're very helpful. Some of them have community gardens. They have community events. So that's another option too to think about. So you're going to be thinking about where to park it. And with Tumbleweed, I had to go through and show them, you know, take pictures and show them where I was going to park the home and then prepping the land. And you have to do all of that too. And so that's number 5, is prepping your land. And so the way that I prepped my land was I got gravel to come out, and it was leveled to make sure the foundation of where the tiny home is going to be, that land was prepped before the tiny home arrived. And so also in prepping the land, I contacted the electric company, and I had to hire somebody to put up the pole and all the electrical. I was very surprised to learn that the electric company, well, at least where I live, that they don't do that. And so I had to hire an electrician to build all of that for me, build my electrical box. I had to tell him my tiny home it's a 50 volt plug, or 50 amp plug. And so I had to let the electrician know that what kind of plug I was going to have for the tiny home. And I communicated with Tumbleweed, and they helped me with that too. And so after I hired an electrician to build that for me, then the electric company come out and they ran wire and hooked everything up. That way, when my tiny was delivered, I had the land prepped and already had my electrical box too. And I also worked with the plumber, contacted a plumber, let the plumber know that, you know, hey, I was going to have this tiny house delivered, told him when it was going to be delivered. And that didn't really work out as well as I thought it would, because he kept procrastinating and didn't come out to help me with that like he said he would. So then I had to find another plumber. But it all worked out in the end. The plumbing got delayed by a couple of weeks because of that. So you're prepping the land, and then you're going to start your downsizing. So, you know, you can start that anytime. Some people start downsizing, you know, they're thinking about getting a tiny home. They've been pondering on it for a couple of years, and they're slowly going through and downsizing, getting rid of stuff, having yard sales, donating it. So you need to downsize, because if you live if you live in something bigger than a tiny home, then all your things won't fit in the tiny home. And so you got to start the downsize process. And I have done a video about how to go about paring down, downsizing your things. And so if you don't know where to start with downsizing, you can go back and watch that video that I talked about with downsizing. And then, so my tiny home was delivered October 14th, 2019. And you need to have people with tumbleweed. I don't know if some builders set it up for you. Some may do that. But with tumbleweed, you have your delivery person that delivers your home to you, but they don't set it up. They did like make sure it was level. Basically, they're just dropping it off for you. And so they're going to come in, make sure it's all set up and parked the way that you want it to be parked, and make sure that it's level. But also in the delivery, with the regulations or the requirements for the insurance, the tiny home had to be tied down. And so a family friend come out and helped me with all of that. He's actually, after I had the gravel delivered, he come out. My mom's got a tractor, and he leveled the ground with the gravel, made sure all of that was nice and level. And so when the day the tiny home was delivered, he come out, and then I had to buy straps and stuff, and he got it tied down for me. So setting up the tiny home, once you get your tiny home to its parking spot, you got to start the setup process, and you have regulations. Some insurances, they want you to take the wheels off of the tiny home, make sure it's on a good solid foundation. The insurance that I have, that wasn't a requirement, but a requirement was to have it tied down. And so making a checklist is very helpful, and it helps because if you're thinking about everything all at one time, it gets a little bit overwhelming. So going through and making a checklist really does help. I went through and wrote down like a timeline about when things happen with the tiny home to kind of give you an idea with my builder, Tumbleweed, from the time that we started the process to the time the delivery of the tiny home. It was around a 3-month period. And so everything went super, super fast. And so in the end of July of 2019 is when I got approved. I was working with Tumbleweed, and I had started the loan process, filling out the application. I got approved for that. And so that was the end of July of 2019. And then it went into August, where all of that was finalized with getting the loan and all of those things. So September the 3rd, around, these might not be exact dates, but I went through and looked at my pictures and the dates of the pictures. And I try to find, because they communicated through email a lot, and I don't have those emails anymore to get the exact date, but I did find pictures that were time stamped. And so September the 3rd of 2019, they started the build process. That was very exciting. So they sent me pictures of the trailer and, putting the floor on the trailer, no walls yet, but still just seeing the picture that here we go, the tiny home is started. And on September the 5th of 2019, they asked me to send pictures of where the tiny home was going to be, where its parking spot was going to be. And so they needed all of that for the insurance. The insurance needed all of that information. And then every Friday after that, starting with September the 13th, I got pictures every Friday, Tumbleweed would send me an email with pictures what the progress has been that week on the tiny home, and it all went very, very quick. And I'll share these pictures with you as I'm going through the process that I went through. And again, this is my own personal journey of like the time frame and what I had to do going through the tiny home process. And so I got pictures sent to me on September the 13th. And then I got pictures sent to me on September the 20th. And again on September the 27th. I look forward to them every Friday, seeing what the progress was that week with the tiny home. And then on October the 2nd, the living room, I had the living room. It was a garage sale where I sold all my things. Before the garage sale, I went ahead. It was easy to sell like your bedroom furniture, your dining room furniture, your living room furniture. All of that stuff goes really, really quick. But selling like your excess of dishes and appliances and clothing and those type things. I had a garage sale, but it was in my living room. And so I did a video about that too. And then they sent me pictures on October the 5th. And on October the 6th is whenever I had the gravel delivered. And then a family friend come out and level that for me. On October the 9th, the electric company come out and they hooked up the electric for the tiny home. So when she got delivered, she was ready to be plugged in. She's plugged into the grid. And on October the 11th, the tiny leaves Colorado. So Tumbleweed, the Tumbleweed tiny home is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so they say it's like having a baby delivered. You got all of this expectation of your new tiny home. And so they sent me pictures, and she's hooked up to a 1-ton truck, and she is headed to Tennessee. And so that was on October the 11th. So it's going to be a 3-day journey for my tiny. So the driver just took his time, being safe, bringing the tiny to Tennessee. And she was delivered October the 14th of 2019. And so whenever, obstacle number 1, the day that the tiny home was delivered, so the driver, and I don't fault him at all, he had parked at one of those gas stations where you can go in, like a truck stop gas station where you can go in, get a shower. And so he did that because he took his time, did a 3-day journey to get her here to Tennessee. And so whenever he come out from, taking care of his shower and his needs, when he come out, he noticed that somebody had hit the tiny home. So it wasn't like major damage. A brake light on the tiny home, that was damaged. And strips that go down like the side of the tiny home, that was busted up from where somebody hit the tiny home. He didn't see it happen, so he didn't know who did it. So whenever it was delivered, it had already been damaged in getting her here. But that wasn't a big deal, so Tumbleweed was contacted, and your home's under warranty for a year. And of course you have the delivery insurance too to help cover that. And so they found somebody local to come, and they mailed the parts to me, and they had somebody to come and to replace all the damage. And it really wasn't that bad, but it was disappointing. It was a brand new tiny home. And so that was my first obstacle. And my second one, they say driving a tiny home down the road is like being in a tornado, because it's jarring and it's shaking. You got potholes, and so you got to make sure that tiny home is built well to handle that travel. And I guess during that process, because they check everything before it ever left the parking lot to make sure everything was safe. Well, my gas alarm, because I have sensors in the home for like carbon monoxide and all that, and it kept going off, and I could smell the gas. So again, we had to find, because they're in Colorado Springs, they're very far away from where I live in Tennessee. So the heating and air people that I use, they were able to come out and to find out where that gas leak is. And it was a loose connection where my stove is. And so they had to figure out how to get to it to tighten that up. So that was my second. She's brand new. I just got her. Already got 2 problems. And so it's good to prepare, because if you have a builder and they're not close to you and they can't just swing by to check out something that you have going on, it's good to think about who can you call who is comfortable with working on a tiny home, because sometimes it's difficult, depending on what you have going on, finding somebody who can work on a tiny home. And so those 2 things, they worked out fine. And so that was the second thing that happened since having the tiny home. And all of that happened immediately after having the tiny home delivered. And so the tiny home is here, and I start whitewashing the walls, doing some painting the trim, getting things ready to actually move into the tiny home. Putting my couch together, and I had already, I knew the size of the area where I was going to put the couch, so I got that order from Home Reserve, but I didn't put it together until the tiny home was delivered. So, move-in day wasn't the day it was delivered, because I had to get the water hooked up, and the person that I hired for that wouldn't answer the phone. He finally did come out and put in like a marine water hose. He got that hooked up for me, because with your water, you have to make sure like the water pressure and the regulator is just right. You don't want it to be too high. And I'm not a plumber, so I don't really know how all that works. That's why I got a plumber. And so, but he finally did come out and hook up the marine hose. And this was, all in October, so we're starting to move into the winter months when things start getting really, really cold. And I didn't go ahead and do the underpinning and all of that stuff when I got the tiny home, but that is something to think about, to do that. Especially if you're moving right into like the winter months. So I started getting the home ready for me to move in. And whenever I downsized, I kept my mattress, because I was going to put my mattress in the loft. I loved my mattress. It was so comfortable. But the way that the loft is, I couldn't get my mattress in the loft area. So I ended up getting a mattress from a company called, I believe it's called Nectar. And it comes and it's all rolled up in a box, so you can get it up to the loft. And then whenever you undo all the plastic, then it fills up with air. And then that was an easy way for me to get my mattress up there. And it's very comfortable. On top of the Nectar mattress, I also have a Serta, it's a couple of inches thick, memory foam that goes on top of it. And so that come rolled up too. So that was another obstacle that I had to face. My mattress, it wouldn't fit upstairs in the loft area. So think about that whenever if you're building a tiny home and you got a loft bedroom. Make sure if you're going to keep the mattress that you have a way to actually get it up there, because I didn't have that was an obstacle that I had. And so I got everything painted. I start moving my things in. And then in March, this is a big one. This one about, the tears of frustration. This right here in the mini meltdown. This is whenever that kicks in. So in March of 2020, of course, now we have a pandemic. And so I have my brand new tiny home that I love. But things keep happening. And so with my tiny home, for my water heater, I had an aqua hot water heater, and so it's brand new. I just purchased the tiny home, but in March of 2020, the aqua hot water heater, it stopped working, and I don't know what happened to it. I mean, it stopped working, and it does. You had to keep like this. It was a lot to upkeep with the aqua hot. You had a reservoir where you had to, I have to look it up. You had to keep like this liquid in there, and it also ran off of propane. So not only did it heat my hot water, it was also my secondary heat source. So in my tiny home, I do have vents. I have a Honeywell thermometer. And then I have vents in my home, in the living room and in the bathroom, where the aqua hot could produce that secondary heat source. And it quit working. And so I contacted Tumbleweed and let them know that it quit working. And of course, I don't have any hot water. It's still very cold because it's March. It's still very cold outside. And so I was instructed to contact Aqua Hot, and so we did some troubleshooting on the phone. Then, of course, everything's still under warranty, but they had me to go out and to try to source people to come to try to fix the Aqua Hot. I went through 3 different people, and none of them fixed the Aqua Hot. Plus, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so that was another obstacle that I had. I contacted a place that's in Kentucky. That's probably like an hour away from where I live, and they ended up coming out, and they couldn't fix it. They sell like campers and things like that, and so then it was like 3 different people that I had to come out and look at it. And so, of course, time goes by because they got to make room for you on their appointments. And then they come out, then they have to look at it and then, try to fix it. Then they can't fix it. So I went through 3 different people. And so I called Tumbleweed and just desperate. I mean, thank goodness I live next to my mom because I could go to her home. I still had water, but no hot water. And you don't realize how much you depend on hot water when you don't have hot water. It's very hard to cook. It's very hard to wash up like your greasy pots and pans because it doesn't wash well in hot water. You don't have any hot water for showers, so I would have to go to my mom's and get my showers. I mean, it messed with you mentally, not having, well, it did me, not having the hot water. It wears on you after a while. So that happened in March of 2020. And so this went on, you're going to be surprised at this went on until August the 24th of 2020. What I ended up doing is calling Tumbleweed and saying, you have got to help me. And plus I'm moving into I'm almost at the 1 year where, my warranty runs out. And just, told them what I've done to try to fix the Aqua Hot. Had these 3 different people to come out, and it's been March. It's been 5 months, and I have had no hot water for 5 months. And so they sourced a person that lived. He didn't work for a business. He was self-employed, and so he come out. And what we ended up doing, because he couldn't fix the aqua hot, so we packed up the aqua hot and we sent it back to the aqua hot people. The aqua hot people was no help whatsoever. It was their product. It was under warranty, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to, this is my only experience with the aqua hot, but I reached out to them several times, and in my opinion, because it was under warranty, they should have sent someone here who knew about the product and fixed the product, and may not have to go 5 months without hot water. And so whenever the self-employed person come out, he tried to fix the aqua hot. It was a long process. He would come out. He was very busy. He was very, very busy. And again, this is 2020. And he didn't just work on the aqua hot. He worked on air conditioners, and he did a bunch of other things. So he tried to fix the aqua hot. He couldn't fix the aqua hot. And so what we ended up deciding to do was get the on-demand hot water, which I really didn't want to replace it with another aqua hot, just because of the poor experience that I had. And which I love the on-demand hot water heater that's put in, but what happened with taking the aqua hot out is now I don't have that secondary heat source. So all I have for a heat source is my mini split. And hopefully, one day I'll be able to figure out a way, hire somebody to come and figure out a way that I can use like propane gas as a secondary heat source, because I still have the ductwork. I still have all the electrical, everything that was there with the aqua hot. It's just all disconnected because I don't have that aqua hot anymore. And so the positives in that is I have the on-demand hot water heater that works great, but it's really small. I have plenty of hot water for my shower, washing my dishes. It does all of that really great. I don't have any issues with it, but it's not big enough for me to take, like if I wanted to take a bath, it doesn't supply enough for me to have a hot bath, because it's a small hot water heater, and it's in a very small area. So whenever the aqua hot was taken out, that space freed up, because the on demand is very small. It doesn't take out a lot. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I have that, and I have a water heater. A water filter, because I had him to go ahead and remove the water softener because I'm on well water. And then I gained a closet because I didn't have a closet before. But I do hope to, maybe it won't be too far in the future to get that second heat source, because I really do recommend having a secondary heat source. What I use now is just like space heaters, and that seems to work really good. Let's see. Oh, and then back up a little bit, in July is when my Uncle Dan come out and put cabinet doors on the cubbies under the stairs. And in July of 2021 is when the plumber come out, and he trenched pipes from the well, just because every winter I dealt with freezing pipes every winter. So in 2019, 2020, I did everything that I could. I had the heat tape. I wrapped the water hose. It was a marine water hose. I'd wrap it really good. I did everything I possibly could do to try to keep that from freezing, but it still froze. At the end of the day, it's a water hose. Even whenever you get, heated water hoses, it's a water hose. And so in, where was I? In July of 2021, the plumber come out and trenched the plumbing from the well all the way to my house. And then I have the gray water, it runs off down the hill, which that's just like your washing dishes, your shower, washing your clothes. And so it runs off. And so that was good to have that done, because he put the pipes deep enough so it shouldn't freeze. And let's see, and in April, and that was July of 2021, and in April of 2022, I got the glass door for the front door. I got that was put in. And then September of 2022, I got a generator. And then also in 2022, I got gutters. And in September of 2023, now I have a separate composting toilet. So I started having issues, and I'm always very mindful with that toilet. It separates the liquids from the solids. And so where the liquids go in, it was getting stopped up. And I was having a lot of problems with it not draining. I didn't understand it, because I always after you go to the bathroom, always pour water down there to wash that on through the pipes. And I started having issues with it, and apparently, your urine, it can crystallize in your pipes, and it can cause it to clog up. I guess over time, even with me pouring water in there, I was having issues with it. And so the story with that, sometimes you have to think out of the box whenever it comes to your tiny home. It's different. Some of it functions different than like a regular home. Your regular home has flushing toilets. People don't have composting toilets. And so I tried everything that I knew to do to get that to be where pour hot water in it. I just tried everything I needed to do to try to get that to unclog. And so with the mini split, I did a video about the mini split, how to clean it. Sometimes that gets clogged up too. And so what the heating and air people would do is blow air through the mini split, and that would unclog the pipe. So that's what I ended up doing with the composting toilet, was getting air compressor and just covering that up and just blowing some air through the pipe, and that eventually unplugged it. And so let me show you what I use now. So I watched a video on YouTube. I believe the channel is called Wicked Life, and so they have a tiny home, and he talked about this, and he mentioned in his video that nobody ever talks about it. And I thought, that's true. Nobody ever, maybe I thought I was the only one that had this issue, because I keep it clean, I do maintenance on it, and I don't just go to the bathroom and I don't do anything else. I always pour water in it, being very mindful of everything. And I was having this issue with my separate toilet, the pipes getting clogged up. And so in his video, he uses, it's called Javelin urinal treatment. And So this is new. I just got it this year. It's pretty expensive too. This bottle here was like, I think around $40 for this bottle. So it's very pricey. And so I've only used it one time, and I make sure I pour a lot of water down the pipe to try to keep that from happening. But I called not the plumber I normally use, but I called another plumber. I think I did call the plumber I normally use, and he was too busy to come out. And so I called other plumbers, and they're like, no, we don't work on composting toilets. It was a piping issue. So I thought, well, I'll just call a plumber. So that's something to think about whenever you have a tiny home. Make sure you keep like a resource book of people that you can call that are comfortable with working on different things in a tiny home that's not in a standard home. Like with me, I had the issue with the aqua hot. Now with the mini split, I know that there are more and more homes are getting mini splits. So it's more common now than what that used to be. And then with the composting toilet, because the things that are in a tiny home, sometimes, I know some tiny homes do have flushing toilets, but if you're having some issues with like your composting toilet, like I did with the aqua hot, it was very hard to find resources for people to call to work on these things. So that's something to really think about if you're getting a tiny home. And I know this video is getting a little bit long. And so in 2022, I got gutters. I mentioned the composting toilet. That was in September of 23. Started having trouble with the composting toilet. And so that's like, 4 years later after getting the tiny home. So I didn't have trouble with pipes until then. And then I also, in April of 2024, the seal around the tub, I had to go through and redo the seal around my tub, which that was an easy project. I did that myself. And then also I had October, back up a little bit, I forgot to mention this. October in 2020, the porch was built. So that was in 2020. And this year, 4 of the steps on the porch, they rotted. So I replaced that. And I did that myself. I was so proud of myself. But I went to, it's called a Builder Supply that's local. And I gave them the measurements and they cut the wood for me. So all I had to do was just unscrew the steps that were there and then replace with the new steps. And I did it. First time I ever did it. And this year, January 23rd, 2020, January 23rd, 2024, the on-demand, man, this was, I think I had PTSD from the aqua hot because that was such a stressful situation. So in January of this year, January 23rd, 2024, we had very extreme cold weather that stuck around. Now, my pipes didn't freeze because I have the underpinning that helps protect, the air flowing up under the house. And then I also got like bales of straw and had it like where all the plumbing is. I had that on the outside of the house because we had this really cold weather coming. Just doing that extra step to try to help prevent pipes from freezing. And so my pipes didn't freeze, but I guess it affected the on-demand hot water. And so whenever I turned my water on to take a shower, it made like this really loud noise. And the pipe in the on-demand hot water, it busted. And so I had to find somebody to replace that. And that took maybe 3 or 4 weeks to get that done, because they have to come out. They got to troubleshoot what's going on. And he told me that I needed to order, some parts to replace. And so I had to wait for that to come in. And then when that come in, he come out. And then he couldn't remove what was broken to replace it with a new. So then I had to order a whole new on-demand hot water. And so all of that just takes time. You got to take time for the parts to get here, time for them to fit you in the schedule. And so I'm back to my mom's taking a shower, because it's winter time. It's freezing. And the water I'm not all about polar plunging and all that. I guess it would be fun to do it, but, if you're actually trying to, wash your body, take a shower, it's not very fun to do that in hot, freezing cold water. So back to my mom's I go to get my shower. And so I think we're all up to date. Some of the things that I have gone through, that I have faced while living in a tiny home. And I hope that me sharing my experience with you, that it gets you to thinking, do I have a local plumber to come out to help me if I'm dealing with freezing pipes? Or what kind of systems I have in my home? Do I have someone local that I can call to come and make those repairs? Because, you live in a really cute tiny home, and you love your little tiny, and you don't want to live anywhere else, but things happen. Things go wrong. And if you're like me and you don't know about electrical stuff, and you don't know about, aqua hot water heaters or on-demand hot water heaters, then you need to have the resources of people that you can call that are dependable, have a good reputation, because I did have one guy with the aqua hot. He come out and I paid him money, and guess what? He didn't come back. And so I was out of that money that I paid him. I think it was a couple of $100s. He never fixed anything. And so lesson learned, have the job done first. And then I was just trusting. I was too trusting. He was a nice guy. And I just thought that, he would finish the job, honor his word, but he didn't. So anyway, lesson learned. Things happen, and that's okay. As long as you're learning from those lessons, it makes you more cautious of what to and what not to do in the future. I hope today that the checklist, if you're looking at going tiny, I hope that the checklist helps you on things to think about if you're preparing to go tiny. And I hope that sharing my 5-year experience since I've been tiny, the obstacles that I have faced, I hope that it gets you to thinking about how to prepare in advance some of the possible things that could go wrong. Because that's life. Things happen. Things go wrong. Things break down. They don't last forever. And how are you going to go about taking care of that? Who are you going to call? Can you do it yourself? Oh, and I forgot all about my washing machine. I had a washing machine that come with the tiny home, and it was probably maybe a year and a half old. It was past the warranty, and it just kaput. It kaput, quit working. And so then I had to order another one and have someone to come out and take care of that too. So things just happen, and it's good to start that. People in your address book, your phone book, your handyman people, go ahead and get those lined up. Try to resource those people that you'll know who you can call, who you can count on when things do happen, because everything does take time to get it fixed, because they got to fit you in their busy schedule, come out, diagnose the problem, order parts, and that'll save you a little bit of time and a little bit of stress, hopefully, if you have that information ahead of time. And I hope that you all enjoy this video today. I know it was a little bit long, but we packed a lot into my 5-year journey so far, living in a tiny home. And I hope that this information was helpful. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss an episode. And thank you all so much for stopping by today. I hope you go out and you make it a great day. You have a great upcoming week. And you be safe and God bless. And what's Buddy doing? He has been snoozing. He has been snoozing this whole time. Buddy? Yo, snooze. You want to say hi to everybody? Here, buddy. Say hi to everybody. Say hello. Say go out and make it a great day. And we'll see you on the next one. Yes, we will. We'll see you on the next one.